Freedom lovers. Today, I argue the point, is there really democracy in the United States? Now, I'm going to go to certain places in our society and look for democracy to see if it's there. Now, the first place we could look is at the home. Now, usually you don't really find democracy in the home because mom and dad have to make the decisions and dole out the money accordingly. It's similar to a dictatorship. It's similar to the workplace. And it really doesn't reflect democracy. Parents might listen to their kids' input into matters, but ultimately, kids don't drive what happens in the home. The parents do. So there, we don't really see democracy. And even worse, sometimes men and women don't respect each other equally in a marriage, and then you find a man dictating to a woman, which is even further from democracy. At least if you had democracy in the home, it might look like maybe dad was red party and mom was blue party, and the kids would vote, and ultimately a decision would be made. I mean, that might be what democracy would look like in the household. But I've never really seen that. So let's move on now to the workplace. Now, there can even be a inclination about democracy in the workplace. That's completely forbidden, as evidenced by companies that fight against unions. Unions are really an attempt for good people, hardworking people, to incorporate democracy into the workplace, the place where they spend most of their waking hours, the place where they're supposed to care the most and do the best they can, but yet have the least say in matters that affect them directly, like if the job stays or goes to China. Now, if workers had the ability to vote, they might vote to not send their jobs to China. So we really find a dictatorship in the workplace. And so much so strong is that dictatorship, that if even the word union is whispered in any business, billions are spent to crush that union and whoever whispered that word. So we're not going to find democracy in the home, per se. We're not going to find democracy in the workplace, per se. So really the only place we find democracy is every 4 years when we vote for some person who's supposed to lead us for the next 4 years. And if it's off of a cliff, well, we just have to wait for the next guy to come in. And maybe he'll drive us off another cliff. Or maybe try to veer off, not go over the cliff. But you never know. Politicians are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But you do know it'll never get better. So that brings me to my next point. If the only place that we have democracy is for voting for politicians and they never make any meaningful or substantial changes, and both of the major parties allow most of Americans to be thrown out of their homes and onto the street, where do we really have democracy? It's not in the home, it's not in the workplace, it is not even at the polls.